So you might have noticed that YouTube got rid of the dislike counter, and I kinda wonder why. Every time I launch a new video, within seconds, a few whippersnappers always hit that thumbs down button. It's not even been long enough for them to see enough of the video to know that they won't actually like it, but they hit the button anyway. Now, since that counter is gone, what will these people do? I mean, in most cases, I'd assume that this small group had nothing really valuable to look forward to except disliking my video within a few minutes of it coming out, and while they could still hit the button, they can't see how many others are of the same mindset. On the flip side, sometimes people hit this dislike button because they genuinely find something wrong with the video, and that's cool too. I'll be honest, I've hit the dislike button a time or 200 before, but only when really necessary. Tell me down in the comments why you think YouTube eliminated this feature, even though we all really know why YouTube eliminated this feature. Either way, I've got great news for the negative Nancys and YouTube critics who both deservingly use this button on my channel. I can still see when you click these buttons, so go ahead right now and hit that dislike button if you really yearn to. It's totally your choice, but if you're so inclined to hit the like button, I guarantee you I'll try to finish at least one project by next week. Anyway, most of you are here for this super sweet BMW X6m, the fastest SUV produced a decade ago. If you saw the initial video on this car, you know it has some strange electrical issue rendering it basically useless. This car costs about half that of a good working one, but it's currently worth about a quarter of a good working one, so if you do the math, I'm almost an eighth of the way to my second divorce. Either way, if you want the full story on this really amazingly spec'd lemon law title repossessed twin turbo X6m, go ahead, pause this video and check out the first one at the link above. The car currently has all of electronics going haywire, and I'm afraid to even drive it since it will randomly throw itself into park while moving. We did an initial code read and found a bunch of errors in the CAN bus network, and after a few days troubleshooting, I came up short trying to find a solution, so I got in touch with my friend Super Mario, who is a European car electrical guru. Now in the video message Mario sent me, he gave me a step-by-step tutorial on how we can pinpoint the exact electrical failure in our BMW, and here's the Cliff Notes version. Number one, you get an oscilloscope, which is a several $100 electrical testing tool, and I have no other way to describe it past that because I hardly know how one works. Number two, you take that oscilloscope and you probe the CAN bus network lines in the car. Those are pretty easy to find. They run to pretty much every single module that runs on the CAN bus network. Number three, with the key on and the engine off, you go and you start pulling modules out of the car. So you're going to disconnect the power to each module that runs on the CAN bus network. And when the problem is disconnected from the car, whether that be a failed line or a failed module itself, the wavelength is going to change on the oscilloscope and you found your problem. Personally, I have a few little issues with this method. Number one, you have to have an oscilloscope. Number two, you have to know how to work an oscilloscope. Number three, think about how time consuming it might be to unplug every single module from the car in order to find your issue. I mean, it's just a time consuming process if you consider just taking that module out in the passenger side footwell area. Well, that took me about 20 to 30 minutes for one module. So multiply that by 10, potentially 15, however many it takes to find your problem. Don't get me wrong, this is the right way of doing this. This is the textbook way of doing this, but I'm a bit more shade tree and I want to attempt a DIY way of figuring out where our electrical problem is. And that all starts with this guy right here, Carly. Now we already did a code read with Carly and we generated nearly 200 diagnostic trouble codes scattered around all the modules in the car. Trying to sort through nearly 200 codes again is just a tedious, time-consuming process that could easily lead you into a dead end. But think about one thing. When we remove that electrical cutoff relay from the fuse box in the back there, a lot of our functions came back online. Things work so much better than they did before. And think about it, when that relay is plugged in and it's cutting power to a bunch of different electrical systems within the car, well, those systems are going to throw faults. So if we keep the relay out and we clear all our codes and rescan them, in theory, a lot of those faults should go away and paint us a clear picture. Think about this situation like this. Mario's method of attack would be with the sniper rifle. Mine would be more with like a sawed-off shotgun. You could hit your target either way. One might be a bit more accurate. So we've got the relay out. We're going to come back over here and we're going to grab Carly, which is right here, and simply plug it in our diagnostic port. There we go. Right now, let's put the key in the ignition. Accessory power on. So this is key on, engine off. Come over to Carly, and it is currently set up for our BMW X6. We're going to need to do a health report. We want to start with a clean slate here, so we need to clear those nearly 200 codes that we found before. Now check this out. The report came back with only 23 codes this time, much more manageable than before. We can go through each one of these systems, module by module, figure out which ones are on the CAN bus, and attack them individually in a similar fashion that Mario would do with an oscilloscope. But instead of looking at an oscilloscope, we're just going to be looking on the dashboard to see if our symptoms go away once we undo whatever problem modules we find. So we'll go ahead, plug this back in. I suspect the answer to our problem is somewhere in our newly generated Carly log here, but I did want to mention two notable things that I saw while just going through these. Number one, remember the junction box electronics that had all those codes before? I went and actually pulled it and swapped it with a known working one to see if that changed our symptoms. It didn't, and now the junction box electronics, according to Carly, has 0 faults in it. And this is the original one that came with the car. I've swapped it back to the factory one during our tests so we can diagnose things in the most accurate way possible here. Number two is that a lot of these electrical modules that have faults in them still have a KCAN error or a KCAN line fault code, which is good. It's what we already know. We're going over the CAN bus network, but we're doing so with a much more limited list of codes, so it should speed up the process and kind of give us an idea of where to go. And one other quick thing, Carly is a diagnostic tool that was actually designed around BMW, so it's very effective in troubleshooting BMWs. It also is very good on Volkswagens and Audis, and right now they're actually giving away their adapters for free when you buy a membership. I'll expand upon that later, but it's just a crazy offer, especially if you have a BMW or another European make. I highly recommend you check out Carly, and I'm going to leave a link to them down in the description. Now, besides it being a really strong diagnostic tool, Carly's coding capability allows you to customize hidden features in your car. You can turn on things like video in motion and turn off those annoying nav screen warnings with the tap of a button. I coded my brother's BMW to have the Rolls-Royce chime whenever you open and close the doors. And since I do my own oil changes on my Audis, I use the service reset feature to get rid of the service light. It used to be that you either have to go to the dealer or use a really expensive VW tool to get rid of this light, but not anymore. If you happen to be in the market for a pre-owned European car, Carly's used car check can detect odometer rollbacks by comparing data stored in multiple modules against each other to assure you're not getting cheated. Nowadays, my local BMW dealer wants like north of $200 for a diag, which is crazy when you consider all they're doing is plugging their computer into your car and providing you a printout of all the codes. You could do that at home and so much more with Carly. The first time you use this, it pays for itself, especially since a Carly adapter is free right now when you buy one of their memberships. All you have to do is click my link in the description and use their drop-down menu to select your make and model, and it will tell you exactly how Carly can work for your car. Don't forget to use code SAMCRACK21 at checkout. That's going to take an additional 20% off your purchase. It's really an incredible tool. I use it all the time and I can't recommend it enough. Now I want to give a huge thanks to Carly for making my ownership experience with these old European cars so much more enjoyable, and for also sponsoring this video. Right, there's no real rhyme or reason about how I'm going to go about this. I'm just going to take a common sense approach and apply what I know about this car and what I've experienced with past BMW. So if you just look through all the modules with faults here and kind of, from my understanding, if you think of something like the footwell module is a good one here. See, it's got that KCAN bus line fault error there. I would imagine that the telematic system, yep, another CAN bus error. So these are all systems on the CAN bus. So basically everything that has one of these CAN bus warnings, we're going to want to look at. So see right here, we've got a KCAN line fault in the airbag crash safety module. That's probably also the SRS module. Now I did notice one other thing here, the CAS. That's a system I've worked on in a Mini Cooper before. We've got a KCAN warning there. Now the CAS and the footwell module in this car should be located in the same area, like behind the kick panel down there. Since there's two modules in one area, and it's as simple as being right here, and we know how easy it is to get in there and work on it, let's attack that. It's going to be like a very similar process to what we already did on the passenger side. All right, I think we're onto something here, even though it's not exactly what we came here for. When I was on the ground here, I pulled the kick panel down, and as I dug my elbow into the corner here, I actually felt a little dampness. It's crazy because like this carpet clearly wasn't like wet at first, but there's water under the carpet. It's clearly water intrusion in here. So naturally, I look around the seat, under the seat, and look at this. We've got a wet module under here, and look at the connectors. I don't know how we're going to get this thing out without... See, we can't move the darn seat back because it doesn't want to work. It's all disgusting and dirty here. Maybe look at the connectors, they all look nice. Come on, open up. Looks pretty darn good, man. Jeez, we're really being led in a crazy direction here. I ran the part number here. This is a seat module, so I'm guessing it just controls all the functions of our power seat. But either way, not expecting much. Relay is back installed in case this does something, but look at this. System cannot detect the seat position. Okay, the module's out. Please recalibrate. Look at it. Nothing's flickering anymore, though. The car's running good. The tachometer works. That hardly ever worked before. Most of the time, the tachometer was stuck on 0. A lot of the time, the gauge cluster was out. No way. Look at what this says. All systems okay. Well, I mean, it's got the airbag light on, so all systems can't be okay. But look at this. All systems. It was this. This is it? Come on. Hold on. Get in the car. Get in the car. We got to go for a drive and actually see if this works. I think that this must have been the bad module. Let's see here. Does the AC work? Okay. I mean, there's a radio. Okay. There's a rear view camera. I never saw any of this stuff before. It was just littered with all sorts of like error codes. The AC's even cold. Check that out. Yeah, man. Nothing's flickered once. And I remember initially like every light was lit up on the dash. And now, I mean, again, besides the SRS light and the TPMS light, which is on in pretty much every single one of my cars, we're going to take it pretty slow off the bat here, because remember before it was like throwing itself into park randomly, doing all sorts of crazy stuff, and it's riding a whole lot better. So over like bumpy pavement, you could feel this car has electronic dampers, and they were in like a really stiff setting. I mean, just pulling this single module out, it's probably killed the seat functions. Hold on. Yeah, obviously the seat doesn't move currently, but it brought everything in this car back to life. It's just so crazy. It can really be like any module in the car. And when we first had this issue and I saw those KCAN codes and I did a little bit of research, I saw a couple different videos from other mechanics where they had faults specifically with modules. Not a single one of them had like a wiring harness issue. Most of them had random modules fail. So like one of them was in a tire well and it was a TPMS receiver. And so if you think about that, that's like exposed to the outside almost. I saw another one where it was a trailer module. Again, it was located all the way in the back, and the sunroof drain had failed and water got in the back. It was in a 7 Series. And this one, well, since it's up front here, what I'm assuming is that our sunroof drain is blocked. We'll go look at that right now. But enough water got in to probably short the module, and it was trying to communicate over the CAN network, but it was creating all sorts of noise. And boom, it took down the entire network and killed most of the electronics. So this is awesome. Again, we've been driving for like 3-4 minutes here, not a single issue, and my check engine light hasn't even popped up. For a BMW, that's pretty good luck so far. Now look at this. I was enamored with the KCAN line faults. I was really fixated on finding all those faults, right? But look this is the airbag crash safety module, or the SRS system. Look at the second code. Driver's seat module failure in the alarm path. Right there, it says it occurred at 123,000 kilometers, whereas the last KCAN line fault is probably when we scanned it. So this fault has been here longer. So Carly did detect this problem, and it's been staring me straight in the face the entire time. I just never paid close enough attention to it. Now that we got it warmed up a little bit, we got to see how it really goes here. I'll wait till we're all clear, and I'll put my foot to the floor. All right, 3, 2, 1, let's go. There we go. Okay. That light that just popped up is the classic BMW limp mode light. It goes off when you shut the car off, but it will come back on in a similar circumstance. So when we're really pushing the car, foot all the way to the floor, limp mode light pops up. I pull back out Carly, did a scan, and there were 4 codes in the engine module. They were all BMW specific codes, so nothing common like a misfire or anything like that. And one of them was for an accelerator pedal module. Okay, so get this, in the same area that we had the trouble with that seat module, we've got an issue with the accelerator pedal module. So obviously water is in there and it is wreak havoc on everything, and we have to get that area of the car sorted, but we also have to get where the source of the water is sorted. And again, I'm gonna go with the sunroof drain. Generally on a BMW, when you have water pooling up in the footwells, it's one of two things. It's either a clogged sunroof drain or it is a door membrane that comes loose over time. Either way, they're easy enough to check out. So let's hop up on top of the car and see what we got. Let's turn the accessory power on. Look, the key's not even in the slot anymore. That is something that was working on and off before. And we're gonna go ahead and open up our sunroof here. Let's hop up top, see if we see anything. And right off the bat, look at this. See the passenger side here? Passenger side is dry, but if you come right here and look, can you see? There is a puddle of water blocking our sunroof drain. And so when that happens, this just pulls up here and it will find its way into the footwell as we just experienced. So we need to clean our sunroof drain.
Sunroof drain issues are nothing new and have caused issues on a lot of different cars ever since I can remember. First, we vacuumed up all the remaining water from the carpet. Then, to clear the drains, we blew them with compressed air. After doing this, the water still wouldn't flush out. I then tried pushing some weed whacker string down the drain, which only went down about 4 or 5 inches before binding, and the water was clearly still pooled up in the sunroof frame. Without this problem fixed first, the X6M will never be right. So the next step is to figure out how the drain runs through the car. And the way things are going, we'll likely end up sticking this BMW into a gigantic bag of rice.
Gosh. Look at how much water.